question. How many of you heard my presentation a couple days ago? Okay, so most of you didn't. Oh, cool. Now this presentation is unique. It's the first time that I'm delivering it in the public arena. The difference with this presentation is all about the benevolent ETs. We don't hear very much in ET circles about what the good ETs are doing. They work behind the scenes. They don't make noise. The internet is not full of all the good things happening because the forces controlling the world don't want the good news to get out. So this presentation is about what they're doing, what we can do, why they need us to participate in what's going on for the future. And so, before I launch into my presentation, I'd like to share with you a message I received this morning. I sat up on our balcony at Ramada Hotel Suites, looked at the sun, and most days what I do is I tune into the sun and I get light codes from the sun. And moving forward in the future, being able to do that is going to be very important because the energies of everything is rising. And we are hearing that it's important for us to raise our vibration, raise our consciousness. The problem is, what does it all mean? So I'm going to explain that during this presentation. So the Akashic Records, for those who are not aware, is your book of life. It is written in the Bible. It is written in Edgar Casey's writings. He tapped into the Akashic Records to get into all his readings and information. It's the energetic book that has a record of everything that's happened to you as a spark of source on your journey out and back. So here's what came through this morning. Good morning, Masters. Greetings, loved one, is what they said to me. Another beautiful morning. As you dwell in the warmth of the sun and sit with it going in and out of the cloud, you are experiencing degrees of warmth. The codes you are receiving are different from sunrise. The codes are always appropriate for you. And space. This is what space means. Stillness of presence, actualizing consciousness in evolution. Then oneness, O-N-E-N-E-S-S. That's the organic nexus in the eternal now, evolving your spirits with source. And I hadn't heard of this before. This is profound. The space of oneness is first experienced only in the stillness of presence. When you connect with the organic nexus of the eternal now, then you actualize your consciousness in evolution as your spirit evolves with source. You actually need to look at it and meditate on it to get it. Unfortunately, I don't have time to explain that. Check me later and I will show you. To get to this space, find the gap, GAP, which is God actualizing perspective. When people go around in circles, they pass 0 point at one point. So what happens is that when you have infinity, you go around in circles, you actually pass the 0 point. And you have to go through the 0 point to get from one part of infinity to the other. It's when you get into the gap that you can sit in 0 point and change direction to the other side. This is particularly important when one is caught in the cycle of negativity. So when you're caught in the cycle of negativity, there's actually a point where if you stop, it gets you to the other side. The cycle of duality polarity is the same as the cyclical path of planet Earth around the universe. So your evolution, in terms of the cycle of duality polarity, is actually being mirrored by the cyclic motion of planet Earth being pulled by the sun around the solar system. You go through the movement of evolution and duality and polarity, where the evolution of your consciousness shifts over time as you move to higher levels of evolution. The ETs, Matrix, Illuminati, malevolent forces controlling the planet here. All the grief, all the problems, all the issues, all the threats is all part of the cosmic dance of love. It's not linear or 3D. The music is a blend and depth of frequencies and vibrations from the quantum space. The challenges in the moment present impetus to move and shift, as the storm in that moment makes staying in that one place untenable. So the message is, if attached to where you are, you're going to be challenged severely in the future. Everything in the cosmic dance of love is about the expression, experience, and evolution of love going out and returning to itself. That was the message as well. So it leads me into my next sliding point. Nothing is as it seems. So whatever you see, whatever you perceive, is not what it seems. There are three types of reality. There's apparent reality, there's observed reality, there's ultimate reality. What's the difference between the three? Let me tell you a little story to illustrate. Jack and Jill love each other. Jack goes off to work and Jill tends the home and the kids. At the end of the day, when Jack comes home, Jack and Jill spend time sharing the day's events and enjoying each other's company. One day Jack comes home, walks straight past Jill in the kitchen, slams the door, goes into the living room, buries his head in a newspaper. Jill bursts into tears. Oh no, he doesn't love me anymore. Apparent reality, Jill has upset Jack. Observed reality, Jack walks past Jill, not in a good state, something's disturbed. Ultimate reality, they still love each other. We get ourselves in a twist all the time with apparent reality. That's why nothing is as it seems. You cannot believe the media. And if some of you looking in 5D, Greg Prescott recently posted an article with this title, "What if everything we've been taught is a lie?" And when you go on this journey of awareness and going down the rabbit hole, you will see more and more with your jaws open that so much of what we know and been taught has been fabricated and is the opposite of truth. For example, the sun is not what we're told it is. I got taught in science in primary school. The sun is in the middle of our solar system. It's this huge mass which, with gravity, keeps all the planets rotating around it. And it's a ball of thermonuclear fusion explosions which causes all the life. That theory doesn't work. Quantum physics has proven that it's false. Then we see astronauts coming out from behind, saying that in outer space they can't see the sun. And those of you who listened to James's presentation last night, which was great, something he said that stuck was that the chemtrails that they're spreading are not just to poison people, but to cover up the dwarf star, so you can't see the second sun. So there's so much going on. The moon's not what we're told it is. It's an artificial satellite. It doesn't rotate. It's not a natural moon as a physical body. History's been manipulated. And we see what's happening with the media and everything else. So nothing is as it seems. So if nothing is as it seems, it's important to look at the unseen. What is the unseen? It is the universe naturally synchronizing energies in evolution now, behind the scenes. You go to a movie, you watch the movie, you enjoy the movie, but behind the scenes is a whole lot going on. So somebody getting killed, something being blown up, not real. It's Hollywood. So our life here, and what's going on this planet, is a bit like Hollywood. It's a play, a drama. It's not real. What's real is what's in the unseen. So how do you get into the unseen? Five steps. Number one, tune into the energies of what is there. There lies a conundrum. You are not taught how to do that. This is something you have to learn. And you can when you do that. Number two, connecting with the synchronies of the energies that are there. So, no energy is on its own. There's many energies interplaying together. And when they connect, they merge, they mix, there's a synchronicity of these energies. And the secret to being able to do that is number three, being at one with nature and the universe. Our lifestyles mitigate against our doing that. The fast-paced world, the technology, and everything that's going on with technology is taking us away from nature and the universe. From the point of view of virtual reality, augmented reality, the transhuman agenda, all that is taking people away from nature and the universe. However, technology has a good side. It enables communication, enables access to information that we haven't had. It allows you to play the money game at a level you've not been able to do before. So there's two sides to everything. Number four, being aware of the movement of evolution. The world we live in is a fishbowl. We haven't got a clue what's going on in the ocean. You have to step out of your fishbowl and go and look and see what's going on in the ocean of life. That's much bigger and beyond your little world. Otherwise, you have no idea of where you are and what happens in the movement of evolution. Then point five is to bring all this back to the moment of now. Because now is the only reality. The past is gone, the present is not here, and the the future's not here, and the future is about which timeline you're going to go on. Here's the most important thing right now. This is the biggest game on the planet. It's not about the presidential elections, it's not about making public history, it's not about peace, it's not about the environment. It's all about the big shift. This is the shift of Mother Gaia from the third to the fifth dimension. This is prophesied in the Bible, the book of Revelation. Dolores Cannon talks about it, the new earth and the old earth. It's in the Mayan, it's in the Toltec, it's in every ancient indigenous scripture. There will be a separation of two worlds. There will be the new earth and the old earth. It requires our participation. For Mother Gaia to transcend, three things need to happen. Number one, pole shift. We're in that zone where you've got the energies from the galactic center coming in. Number two, there will come a point where the 3 million light workers or more on this planet merge their consciousness at the same time and light up Mother Gaia. Number three, the ETs have a part to play. And that is why this talk, which is group communion with ETs, is significant, because we have to work with them. So let's look at ETs. Who are they? The extraterrestrials, because they're not of this territory, they're not of this planet, they are higher level beings from other worlds, and because they vibrate at a much higher frequency, we cannot see them, touch them, feel them. There are benevolent ETs, there are malevolent ETs. All are universal citizens. So, when you see someone doing something bad and traumatic, the ego mind goes into fear, judgment, rejection, prejudice, etc. That is a natural human condition. But the whole purpose of that is to give you the experience, insight, and the expression of knowing the opposite so that you know what you want. You cannot know and understand love until you experience the opposite of it. You cannot be light until you experience dark. Because if you are light in a room full of light, you will not know any difference. So, communion. Now this is a term in spiritual circles, particularly in Christian circles, that's used. And communion is like the Last Supper. But what is communion? It's common union. It is sacred. There is a common purpose. There is love and light, and there's evolution together. The classic example of communion is the Last Supper, where Jesus broke the bread and the wine with his 12 disciples. Now, we can and are called to participate in communion with ETs for the future. That is important in our work going forward. So here's a bit of history with ETs. There have been visitations to ancient civilization. Jeremiah Sitchin and a whole lot of other people have written books and research about that. Some time ago, there was an author called Erich von Däniken, and you guys might remember him, and he wrote a series of books, and he had some TV series. And then the media debunked him big time. So that kind of went away. And I just kind of revisited some of his stuff, and he was on to something for sure, in terms of what he was on about. And then we've seen over the last few days, ET encounters and abductions, Area 51, UFO sightings. So all that stuff that is out there has a palpable reality about it. If you have an open mind, the evidence is too strong to ignore it. Skeptics will write it off because it threatens their belief system. And out there, Star Wars is actually going on. Now, I'm a Star Wars fan. I've seen all the movies. May the Force be with you. It's very real. And are there Star Wars going on? Absolutely. And we have seen a shift in this battle last year in 2016. Going into that a little later. Now, I'd like to talk to you about knowledge versus knowing. We are bombarded with information. There is a huge amount of knowledge today. That in itself is a problem, because a little knowledge is dangerous. How many experts do you know go off with what they know, half-cocked, and lead people astray? So what is knowledge? Knowledge is the accumulation of information at a mental level. What is knowing? Knowing is first when the being connects with the universe and the spirit actualizes the connection. There are many steps from knowledge to knowing, just as there are many steps from doing to being. Knowledge requires you to know yourself, know thyself. So if you don't go on an inner journey of discovery of who I am, You cannot get into a space and place of real knowing. The other issue between knowledge and knowing is that your mind deceives you. When you rely on your mind that is fed by your feelings, driven by your reptilian brain, you are deceived. Knowing requires you to go into the inner space of the stillness within you, and from there, you draw the wisdom and perspective. So, let me just do a slight segue to the future. Moving forward, we have both incredibly exciting times ahead of us, as well as very challenging. December last year, I found people saying to me in Australia and all the people I know in the US, this Christmas does not feel the same. Did any of you notice that? Yeah? This Christmas does not feel the same. It just, something about it, the energy of it had shifted. And part of that is because of the tumultuous changes in the world in the last trimester of 2016. In the last trimester of 2016, we had 6 world leaders change, unprecedented. Britain lost their prime minister with the Brexit referendum. We've got Trump. The Italian prime minister lost his referendum. He resigned. There are a few others. And the New Zealand prime minister, out of the blue, completely unexpected, stepped down and resigned. I personally have no doubt that he was tapped on the shoulder and told to go. So something big behind the scenes that is unseen, that hasn't happened before, is going on. You cannot believe everything you read on the internet. So developing discernment is extremely important. I work on the principle of 3. I need to hear things 3 times reported before I will give it some attention and credence. Then after that, I do the internal check. Does it resonate? Then, if it resonates, does it fit? Which part of it fits into my model of the world? And what do I need to get out of it? What piece do I take to put into my future that will help me? That's the process I use. So a very old mentor of mine said when I was in my late 20s, son, believe nothing you hear and half of what you see. And he was a guy I was working for in Melbourne. And I've never forgotten him tell me that. And I've used that philosophy over many, many things. The times in which I haven't used it, I've got myself into trouble. Now, Sian and I, my beautiful partner Sian over there, she'll be at a table and be able to take your email addresses if you like this presentation, because I'd be happy to email this PowerPoint to you. The video is going to go on YouTube. I'll email that to you. And also, if you like my previous talk, which links into this, I will email that to you as well, because I've got that. Both of us have been on a quest, a world quest, and this started in 2014, when we realized that the big picture, as what I've described, requires us to go to different sacred sites to do activation and to fire up light grids. So I want to share with you the journey of doing that we've been on, which is amazingly exciting. And some of you will feel a call to participate in this in the future. Now, what is the purpose of all these sacred light journeys? It is to prepare the planet for the shift. It's also to prepare the way for the sacred light temple for the lost continent Moria to turn up. What's that? Well, if you read some of the books of what people have written about Lemuria. That was a civilization that existed 57,000 years ago. And it lasted for roughly 57,000 years. And you wind back the precession equinox twice, each one takes 26,000 years, you've got Lemuria. The last one, Atlantis, went down. So third time lucky, we're going to ascend this time round and not go down in a heap like the last two times. Lemuria was an amazing place in space that lasted over 50,000 years, where people lived in light and love and harmony. There was none of the problems and crap that we've got here. We didn't have the benevolent ETs messing up the world then. What kept it all together was the great temple of light, which had its source directly from the central sun. This temple is coming back in roughly 10 years' time in the island of Maui, Hawaii. Within 12 months, Yen and I are moving from Perth to Maui, and that will begin the work down there. This light temple is an etheric crystalline temple of light. You cannot build it. You cannot put power into it. You cannot put furniture into it. It cannot be made by human hands, materials, or technology. It'll just turn up and morph into form according to consciousness. When that turns up, everything possible on this planet shifts to a whole arena. So those of you who are Matrix fans, remember you want to fly a helicopter, you just go and get it downloaded into you. Well, the temple will have the capacity to do all sorts of amazing things like that with people. It will take DNA activation to a whole new level. That's another big topic, DNA activation. So much of it is talked about. How do you know? How does it work, etc. And then people are not talking about quantum DNA activation. Quantum DNA activation is about activating the 144 subatomic strands around each strand of DNA. Lee Carroll, by Cryon, wrote the book, The 12 Layers of DNA. So in his book, he talks about this quantum strands of DNA. So what Sian and I have been doing over the last 3 years is Sacred Light Journeys. The first one started in the big island of Hawaii. And here's what they are. These are conducted at sacred sites with high energy. So there's earth chakras, and then there's different nodes and nulls around the planet. And when you go to a sacred site with high energy, it's different. A very famous one is Stonehenge. A lot of people go there. We went there in 2014 and we found Stonehenge energy very, very low. And it's a very fractured stargate. Sacred Light Journeys, when we run them, are attended by people who are called and selected. So you do not come along for the ride. You come along with purpose and with calling. The group go on a spiritual journey of raising vibration. So we have spiritual disciplines. We meditate, we have light journeys, we have the light with the lamp that we've got. Sien's showing it up there. And we're running light sessions today around for people to experience what this is like. We work on people's stuff to help raise their vibration, and we build oneness in the whole group, so that's raising vibration. And then the lamp is used as a light portal. We're building a new lamp, which we call Alchemy, and that's going to be released towards the end of the year. These lamps, I use them as a light portal. And so when we have people together in oneness, we go on a light journey in the light, and then we can fire up light grids and activate sacred sites. Now, light journey is when your group consciousness merges, and then I have a process protocol to take the whole group into the light. So the whole group in oneness, the consciousness becomes light. It is a most extraordinary experience that's you can't describe, you just have to experience that. So this is what we're doing. And the last two that we did last year was nothing short of amazing, off the charts. When people ask me, This sounds very good, but where's the proof and evidence of that? I'll show you a little later a crop circle that turned up just for us. And this is an amazing, extraordinary story. But first of all, here are the earth chakras. The bottom one, the base chakra is Mount Shasta in California. We've been there twice, we're going back there again. It is no accident that the Telos community live there. So those of you that read the Telos books, there's about 3 million Lemurians that live under Mount Shasta. And they are there to hold the frequency and vibration of the planet. My belief is that if they were not there holding the frequency and vibration of the planet at the base chakra, we would have deteriorated far, far more and far, far worse than we are. Next to the sacral chakra, Lake Titicaca, South America. We've not been there yet, that's on the list next year. The solar plexus, the guts of the planet, is our Uluru. If you've not been there, please, please make it a priority to go. You cannot be an Aussie and a spiritual person without going to Uluru. It is extraordinary and amazing. That is the solar plexus of the planet. We're going to go there on a private sacred light journey in September to activate that and do the connection of Uluru with Lake Taupo and the Glassbury Tor Celestial Light Grid, which I'll explain a little later. Now, what's significant about the solar plexus? Well, that's the guts of the being. So all the stuff that's going on in terms of the pollution, environment, degradation, war, etc., that Mother Gaia is feeling, the solar plexus chakra, that's where it is sitting. And it's no accident that our indigenous people have suffered so much oppression because they are intricately tied to the spirit of Uluru. Then the heart chakra is Glastonbury, Shaftesbury. We have done amazing work there. We went there in August last year to the Glastonbury Tor, and the work that happened there was nothing short of profound. We had a lady who was with us, who's a dowser. She does dowsing, and she douses spiritual sites. So she can actually dial into where the energy of it is before and after our healing. When we got there, she dialed in before we did anything. It was minus in terms of energy. After we finished our work, it was plus in terms of the healing work. Then a couple of nights later, we took our lights after sunset to the Glastonbury Tor. And those of you been to the Tor, it's just this structure, and it's all open underneath. It's like a tower of a castle with nothing else around it. And when we went there and ran a sacred light journey, that was amazing. So her reading went off the charts after that. It was extraordinary. And then synchronicity was amazing because in July before that, I ended up going to New Zealand, and I was called to go from Taupo right across to the east to an area called Lake Waikari, Moana. I didn't know this, but that was the home of what's called the violet flame. And the Glastonbury Tor is the home of the green flame, which goes back to King Arthur days. And then to be able to connect, marry the two was very significant. And I had a stone with me, which I was able to use as a ritual in New Zealand and take with me to Glastonbury Tor. So that was extraordinarily amazing. More about that a little later. Now, number 3, the throat chakra is the Great Pyramid. Now we went there. Now the throat is the expression of the being. When you look at the spiritual throat of the planet, it's been choked up. So you go to the pyramids and you will see and feel an oppressive energy that's constricting. And so work needs to happen there. That's down the track. Then the third eye is what they call eon activation. That's moving around. Don't know exactly where it is. Then the crown chakra is Mount Kailash in Tibet. Sien and I were in Tibet in November last year. We made a trip there just to check out the land. Tibet's extraordinary. If ever you have the opportunity to go to Tibet, it's great. It's so different. And you do not go on your own. You can't rock up there as a tourist and wander around on your own. The Chinese government do not allow that. You have to go with a tour guide, and then you need a driver and a tour guide, language, etc. Then there's the high altitude, which requires some adjusting too. Mount Kailash is the crown chakra of the planet. So when you take the crown chakra and you shut it off from above, then you have got the spiritual oppression of the entire being. So the whole planet spiritually is locked up because the crown chakra has been taken over. Part of our work is to go back there and do our light work there. Now the biggest thing I'm working on is this. This comes from the work of David Miller, who's written a book on how the Arcturians are healing the planet. This is the Arcturian crystalline tree of life for planetary healing. And you'll note it's in the Kabbalah. So we're working our way around this. We've done Lake Taupo, and there's a huge story around that. We were called to go there in 2015 to fire up a whole new light grid on Taupo, and it took 12 months because March 2014 we did the North Island. March 2015 we went back to the South Island. Then along the way we met key indigenous elders who took us into sacred sites around Lake Taupo that are completely private. If you don't know them, you don't get in. And so there's 4 temples around Taupo that we got access to that we ended up doing activation. We've been to Shasta down here. I've been to Costa Rica, and I've done activation of this volcano. And what was interesting was, straight after I did my light activation of this volcano, it started smoking. So that was a really extraordinary sign. End of this month, I'm going to Grosse Valley, New South Wales, to do this activation here. Lake Moraine in Canada, we're doing that middle of the year in June. So we're working our way around here, and the goal is to go to Montserrat in 2020, that's the vision, to fire up this entire tree. When we do that, it's going to be a global event. And one of the visions I'm getting is to be able to go around the world in 2020 in a large private jet and pick up indigenous elders from every single continent and fly into Barcelona. It's going to be a global world event. The world's going to know about it. So that's going to be huge. And as I was talking about, this is what we've done so far. We've gone to Shasta, Lake Taupo, Volcan Quest in Costa Rica. Oh, by the way, Costa Rica is an absolutely beautiful place. It is one of the top places for expatriate Americans to go and live and settle down there. Copper Canyon, we might do that in late 2017. And Mount Fuji, Lake Constance, Lake Pyogo 2018. So this is our life in terms of our travel and what we're meant to be doing. And as we do more sacred life journeys, things evolve. It's an extraordinary experience. How can I describe it a little bit for you? If you just imagine a nuclear explosion of light turning up in the 4th or 5th dimension when you fire a light grid, it's kind of like that. When we did that in New Zealand, it's the first time ever. And you know, it's like imagining connecting different sacred sites, spinning them, and then you spin them in different planes and you collapse on the 0 point. It's like, boom. A bit like the Big Bang, you know? It's extraordinary. And so the two light grids that are fired up so far are the one over New Zealand. And the one over New Zealand covers 7 points. Then we did Somerset, UK. And those are the dates in which we did. Now, note numerology. We did New Zealand on the 15th of the 3rd, 2015 at 3:33 p.m. So that's what happened there. And this is a light grid over 7 sacred sites from the North Island and South Island. New Zealand is very significant because it is the part of the old lost continent Lemuria and the land that first sees the sun. That's the significance. And so the islanders, the indigenous Maoris, the Hawaiians, the Polynesians, they all have a common heritage going back. And when you look at their folklore, it's all very, very similar. Just using, different pictures and symbols and descriptions and language. The one over UK was very significant because it covered 3 celestial bodies, which is the central sun, Pleiades, Arcturus, and 3 earth sacred sites, Shasta, Glastonbury, Thor, and Lake Taupo. And in September, when we plug Uluru into all this, it'll be very, very significant. When we went to Uluru in 2015, we did some work there at the Red Rock itself, Katatuja, and Kings Canyon. So there's 3 sacred sites there around the area. So we're going back in September, and then we're going to connect the 3 up together, connect them to this grid, and then light up the whole thing. So how it happens, I don't exactly know. I usually find out when I get there just before the event. Now the New Zealand light grid is very dear to my heart because the first one that we did, and we had a sacred light journey with 3 men, 3 women under the light, going to light, and then do the work in firing the grid up. And 3 of them were indigenous elders. It's extraordinary. Sian was one of the ladies sitting under the light when we did that. You can ask her experience sometime later. So the New Zealand light grid has 5 points on the North Island, 4 around Lake Taupo, 1 at the northernmost point at Cape Reinga, and 2 points on the South Island, Castle Rock at the base of Mount Cook, where it reaches where 2 rivers come into it. And again, the geometry of this is very significant. If ever you go to New Zealand and go to the South Island, please visit Castle Rock. That is their Stonehenge. The energy there is off the charts. Amazing. Blew us away when we were there. So I'd love to go back there again and chill out, spend more time there. Now most of you know about crop circles, yes? Have you ever heard of a crop circle turning up for a group for their light work?
Yes.
Where?
Not Glastonbury. Like Wiltshire.
Okay. Have you got a picture of it? Show me later, because I'm curious. Anyway, this is what turned up for us. It's a bit hard to see, but you'll see that the geometry is intricate, extremely amazing. And it's like a Merkaba-like body, as you can see from the chart on the left. Sian saw this in her Akashic records about 4 days before the event. Then, on a Saturday, one of the members drew it to my attention. When I looked at it, I went, oh my God, we gotta go there. It happened to be an hour and a half from where we were staying. So we spent 3 hours, in this crop circle. And I've never been into a fresh crop circle before, let alone tune into the energy of it, let alone have the Arcturians tell me that we created this for you. And it's for what you're going to do tonight. So here are some of the pictures that we took in the crop circle. Now Dalis, the lady that douses energy at sacred sites, she tried to dial into the energy of this. Her rods were spinning like crazy. I've got a video of it somewhere. And she couldn't dial into the energy. It was so strong and powerful. And what her guides told her was that she'll never be able to measure the energy because it's not of this planet. Something else that's significant is that the Masters told us recently that the events in the world where there's been this huge polarity shift in terms of the interplay between the light and the dark, which we're just seeing some of the effects on our planet with all the political and cultural changes, firing up this new light grid has actually been significant in all the changes on the planet. And so, a few weeks ago, the Lemurians at Mount Shasta called out to me and said, when you come to Mount Shasta, and the reason why you're called to do that in 2017 in May, is that you need to plug us into this celestial light grid at a whole different level. I mean, you know, like they're plugged in, however, there is a connection that only we can do in the physical for them. I can't explain it any better than that. So they're calling us to do that, so that's going to be really exciting to go there in May and do all that. And so this is the celestial light grid that's sitting over our planet now, that is connecting the central sun, Pleiades, and Arcturus. Something else that we did when we were in Glastonbury was we connected the Tor directly to Pleiades. And the significance of that is this. The Tor is the heart chakra of the planet. The Pleiadians are all about heart space. So the Pleiadians are here to return us to our heart space. So connecting the Tor to Pleiades is very significant and powerful. Now for those of us that know about this, you can tune into this in your meditation. So this light grid isn't exclusively just for our group that did it. It's for everyone on the planet, which is why I'm now starting to talk about it. Here's what we're doing in 2017. And these are the dates we're going to do what we're going to do. So there's a lot of work and preparation leading up to it. So May, we're doing the big island of Hawaii, and that's really significant because this is the 3rd anniversary of where it started. Sian and I brought these lights into Australia in 2012. We started with the Lucia light, which is over here, that belongs to Jeanette. And then we started work with the Pandora Star lamp last year in 2015. And moving forward, the potential of this technology in terms of shifting light consciousness is profound, which is why we're excited about the work that we're doing with all this. Now, group communion. What about group communion? What happens in group communion with ETs? When you have group communion with ETs, it is a shared experience. And you need to do a light journey to have this shared experience at the level that I'm talking about. Because they are of such high frequency, we are of such low frequency, so then we need to raise our frequency vibration, do it in sacred site, create a sacred container, bring the group into oneness, and then in a light journey go into the light. And when you do that, they turn up. When they turn up, it's extraordinary. So this is what's happened so far in terms of our experiences. The first time we had it, in a powerful, palpable way, was in April 2015, where we ran a sacred light journey in Tingrid in Western Australia. And so what happened was, the whole group powerfully felt the presence of the Arcturians. They visited us then. Everybody's bodies were vibrating because they're working on all of us at the same time. A few saw images of them floating around in our marquee. We have a special marquee where we do that. One lady channeled them and spoke, and then they sent me messages while I was under the light at the time. It was extraordinary. Then in May 2016, when we were in Shasta, we went to the Telos portal. So Telos portal is on the mountain, and there's snow, and there's a ring of trees around where there's a portal. So we went and sat there, did a meditation, and were able to go into Telos. And, you know, two of the group who had the ability could actually see the city when they're in, you know, images and etc. And then they spoke to me as well. So I've got a message from them in my phone, which I'll share with anyone interested later. And then in August 2016, when we're connecting with the Palladians and the Arcturians together, when we're doing Sacred Light Journey, was extraordinary in terms of what they told us. When I was running Sacred Light Journey, I had my hands up like this. And then they came and took me by the hand. And it's just difficult to express the feeling, the energy, and you know, the oneness and the love and the purity of what was going on. So here's the process, as I mentioned. We identify the sacred site, we gather the people, we run a 5 or 7 day sacred light journey, and run a group light journey under the lights. And here's the group experiences I talked about. Some see shapes, some channel, some feel a high vibration, everyone feels a high vibration. People have healing as well. And then they speak to you. Now here's the critical thing. The bridge is a light portal. You know how sci-fi movies, we got stargates, and people go through portals to go into time and everything else? Same principle. A light portal takes you from one level of consciousness and light to another. And the interesting thing is this, with everything coming on the planet, and should you move with the wave of the increasing frequencies that come on the planet, then your frequency vibration is going to rise to a level and point where you can, in your meditation, have greater connection with these benevolent ETs. Let me just do a segue at the moment. How many of you in James' talk last night? Hand up. Okay. Now, if you didn't know the other side, after James's talk, it is easy to walk out and go, we're all screwed. And the perspective and what he's offering to you is important to recognize. Because if you didn't, you would be like lambs to the slaughter. However, the other side I'm presenting is that there are benevolent ETs working on your behalf. And so the 3 things you can do for yourself is, number 1, work on your unconscious fears. Because whatever unconscious fears you have, you are fodder for them. The second thing is to work on your vibration. So the more light and love you have, the greater level of power and empowerment you have, and the less they will have on you. And the third thing is this: when you find your biggest mission that you're meant to have on this planet, and you move in that direction, none of all that is going to impact you unless there is a lesson or a challenge you need to overcome along the way. And so, the light overcomes the dark. The light can only overcome the dark when the light is pure. When the light has darkness within it, that gives the dark access to it. Now this is something exciting for me. The Sacred Light Temple, which I mentioned. Imagine a temple that is of an energy and power and consciousness that is more powerful than anything on the planet. It's going to turn up. Many of you here are going to see it and experience it. When you come to this temple, it's like going into a completely different world. It will be heaven on earth. This temple will spawn possibilities and technologies we can only dream of. My job is to prepare the way for this temple to turn up. I kind of feel like a modern day John the Baptist in the kind of thing I'm doing. It's a really exciting journey. So this is what's coming. So let me just do another segue to put a few things in perspective. Like, who runs the world today? We are extraterrestrial overlords, anarchy controlled by the outcomes through secret societies, blood families, world leaders. And then you got black operations, which is what James talked a lot about, and our governments. So you can sum this up by the underworld. Okay, the underworld is what is underlying everything on this planet. And then there's actually an overworld, the benevolent ETs. Source, all that is, light, love. And there's Star Wars. This has been ongoing for eons. And there's been a significant shift. Significant shift is the battle has got to the point where the dark are mostly vanquished. They are not gone. They're still there, but their power has been reduced dramatically. However, they can still affect people by feeding on their fear. I'm not sure how many of you keep up with what is poised to happen in the future, but in 2017, these are the things that are looming. When I say looming, it's like storm clouds brewing. When storm clouds are brewing, you know a storm is coming. But when you look at the clouds, you don't know when it's going to hit. You just know it's going to turn up sometime. So these are the major changes to come. First of all, the cabal and the banksters are on the run. Those that have hijacked the financial system and caused the quadrillion dollars of, equities, derivatives in the financial system. Inauguration happens in 4 days, 5 days in US time. We are going to have the Trump effect. So people play on words. So you either get trumped or you will trump other people. Then there's the global financial crash that's been predicted since 2011. Now here's something interesting. 2011 was a significant year. It was leading up to 2012. 2011, if you look at history, you look at all the stuff that's happening, you go back to 1876, World War III and the global financial crash like Wall Street was supposed to happen in 2011. Because the dark follow numerology and astrology and so on. It didn't. Then in September 2011, we had something called Comet Elanine that was supposed to be an Earth extinction event. That didn't happen. Now I followed that intensely and the evidence was quite stark and overwhelming. It was going to be serious. What actually happened was that comet got diverted from its path. It was supposed to come within 0.2 U of the Earth, and when it went away from the Earth, the gravitational pull of this comet, being the size it was supposed to crack open the tectonic plates of the planet. However, it got diverted from its path by a mothership. A big one, you know, the ones that are 6 miles long and so on. That didn't happen. So Why did all those things happen? It's because of the Star Wars, the battle between the light and the dark. And the dark have not been able to get their way, progressively more and more. Let me give you an example. In last year when Sian and I were in Boulder, Colorado, we met a guy by the name of Ed. And occasionally you meet people that are way out there, like people you met here. And Ed is one of these guys that's retired, but he's ex-NSA, ex-CSA, ex-Black Ops, everything else. He took a liking to us and came to see us. First thing he came to our hotel room, give me your phones. Okay, give my phones. Shoves them in the fridge, shuts the door and says, we can talk now. And he categorically told us from first-hand experience, this is the first time I've heard this from first-hand experience, that the nuclear weapons systems have been rendered inoperative. I've seen it on the internet, I've heard people talk about it. I've never had first-hand knowledge of that. I now do. About 4.5 years ago, North Korea fired a missile. It got shot down by a UFO. I'm not sure the picture's still on the internet. Also on the internet, you can see UFOs destroying chemtrails. So that's going on. So we've got a lot of stuff happening. Now, currency reset. What's that? Do any of you know about currency reset? Okay. Now, currency reset is when the whole basket of currencies around the world change because there's huge disparity between currencies. The US dollar is bankrupt. The Aussie dollar is lousy. It's linked to the US dollar. So when the global financial crisis happens, the US dollar is going to take a big nosedive down. The two currencies with currency reset that are supposed, I'll use the word supposed to go up, are the Vietnamese dong and the Iraqi dinar, because those two countries, the currencies have been repressed dramatically. It's ridiculous to see that at the moment, one Aussie dollar is worth 16,000 dong. And when you look at the economy of Vietnam and Australia, the economy of Vietnam is not 16,000 times better. So there's this huge disparity. What does currency reset mean? It means very simple that if you have currency, if you have cash in some of these currencies they're going to get reset, it's going to be worth a lot. Now whether it happens or not, we don't know for sure. But if you look at it and you feel that it's worthwhile, put $100, $200 in dong or Iraqi dinar and see what happens. You can't lose much. Then there's major energies hitting the planet. So these are the major changes to come. And when you've got these major changes to come, then you have three choices. Default is to do nothing. Go along your merry way. You go along your merry way and a storm hits, you're vulnerable. You can look at it and go into fear and contraction, head for the hills, like so many people do. You know, there's a multi-billion-dollar industry in the world for survival. All the people that got bug outs, and shelters, and going out on land, and then in the US the rednecks are arming themselves to the teeth with enough ammunition to start a small war. When I was in the US last year, I walked into a gun shop in Florida, because I've never seen one. You know, you don't see them in Australia. I walked in the gun shop, and it blew me away. Right? It was 2 stores. It had everything. Right? You know, those days with Clint Eastwood, you know Dirty Harry? You know, his 45 Magnum? Well, they now have a 50 caliber Magnum, and it's a big, big gun. You could buy them there. Pump action shotguns, you know, machine guns, enough ammo to start a war. It's all in the store, all beautiful, pre-presented in cases and everything else. All you have to do is pull out your credit card over the counter and walk out with it. blew me away. But I spoke to another American who said that the state in the US that is the most armed by the citizens have the least trouble. Isn't that interesting? And then over there, they don't have speed cameras, you know, mounted on posts, because someone puts a bullet in it. So it's really interesting traveling around seeing these things.
What state was that, Richard? What state was that in the US?
I think it was Texas, but I'm not sure. Yeah. So there's these things happening. So back to the changes to come. We have storm clouds brewing. Now, when a storm comes, it's actually good because nature goes through the cycle of build, maintain, destroy. And a new coming is something good. Like, you remember the earthquake that hit Aceh, Indonesia? Well, what happened there was 200,000 people lost their lives. But they rebuilt it now. It's all better than new. And with all the attention in place, the Indonesian government had to acquiesce to public opinion and actually do the right thing down there. So when these storms come, you have three choices. Continue going along your merry way, which is not a good thing to do. Number two, go into fear and head for the hills and contraction. Or number three, transcend all that. One of my favorite movies is Transcendence by Johnny Depp. In 2014 it came out, 2015. And the poignant part of the movie is when he, as a computer scientist, got shot and they loaded his consciousness in the computer, and then he was building this center out in the desert to change the world. The authorities didn't understand it, came and bombed his facility. When his facility was being bombed, he said these critical words to his wife: "We will not fight them. We will not resist them. We will transcend them." So in your world today, when you're looking at the authorities and the government doing things to you, poisoning food, Monsanto, the government, the environment, talking about government, do you know that now there's a law in our country that when you have a fine from any authority, they can petition your bank and take